Hello, this is Mish, and welcome to another review of the TV show called Taboo. This was for episode 2. This will contain spoilers, so if you're not up to date, pause this and come back when you are. So another good episode of Taboo. The stakes are getting really high. The pacing is slow, but very deliberate, and within each scene we're getting pieces of the puzzle, but with this episode we also got a few new characters as well, and I started to learn a bit about them. So I'll break this down into two sections. The main story around James and the East Indian Company, then cover off some new characters that arrived this episode. So let's start by talking about James Delaney and the East Indian Company, as that was the main story arc, of course. So we started the episode with a notice of dismissal from the East Indian Company. If Pettifer doesn't kill James Delaney, he will get fined. So we also got confirmation of the items which James buried at the start of episode 1. So they are African diamonds. So that's where he's getting all his wealth from. Then he spoke to Bryce, his butler, about the situation around his father being poisoned by arsenic, kind of trying to suss out how the arsenic got into his food. Then we learned that he wasn't really eating towards the end, he was just drinking honey beer. And the man which supplied him that honey beer has since died, and his wife has left. So who killed him? Possibly Bryce? So we then see James buy a boat with that money from the diamonds. It was worth £800, and he's naming his company the Delaney Nooker Trading Company, much to the disgust of Wilton from the East Indian Company, which leads Sir Stuart Strange to jump to the conclusion that James is actually working for the Americans. We also find out that the boat he purchased was once used to transport slaves and owned by the East Indian Company. We later learned in a scene with James and Mr. Thoit about the ties of the East Indian Company and the slave trade. We also learn how powerful the East Indian Company is, even that the Crown seems to fear them. We see James approached at a later point by a new character called Winter. So she lives at the Hall House, and we find out she's actually the daughter of Mistress Helga. She informs James a man with a silver tooth is trying to kill him. So he finds his ship and he manages to burn it down because he can't find the silver-toothed man himself. We also see James approach an American doctor who is a spy, so he can start communications with the American president. That doesn't go too well. On to the next scene around the will. So we see James trying to square away his father's debts in a situation where the will is being declared. But that scene is cut short by a new character called Lorna Bell. So we learn that Lorna Bell is from the theatre, and she's actually married to James's father, so Horace Delaney, and now she can contest the will. So once Sir Stuart Strange has been informed about this, he's obviously happy, because the girl is an opportunity, as they say. She will have a claim against Delaney of shared ownership. And once again we see Sir Stuart Strange mention James's death is imminent. So at that point she'll be in sole control, and they can just deal with her. So we get another awkward scene that confirms that taboo relationship between brother and sister. I'll leave that one there because that was really awkward. Then we see an attempted assassination by the silver-toothed man, but James managed to fend him off and kill him. He did suffer a serious wound, but that can't be the end of him because we still have many more episodes to go. But that kind of summarizes James and the East Indian Company's actions for this episode. So now let's talk about the new characters we've seen. So the first new character I want to talk about, we see a scene where James's horse gets stolen, and there's a note where his horse was, saying Atticus. So we find out a bit about Atticus. So Atticus is kind of like a hired hitman, as well as other things. He's also a novelist, which I found very amusing. So we see he was approached a while ago by someone that wanted Horace Delaney killed, so that's James's father. And we later find out at the end of the episode that person that approached Atticus was Thorn Greery, so that's James's sister's husband. So now James is aware of Thorn's intentions, so that situation is going to need to be resolved somehow. I'm not sure how much James's sister was aware of the request by Thorn, but obviously Atticus denied it because Horace died of other means. But it was interesting to see. So two of the characters I want to talk about were Solomon Coop and the Prince Regent. From the scenes with those two, we learnt about the blockade around England, and also that they're being helped out by Ireland to keep that blockade going. We also learn that Coop is targeting the East Indian Company, so he's going to try and cause them an issue. Not sure how severe it's going to be or what their intentions are at the moment, but there's definitely something there. Okay, now I just want to talk about the Prince Regent's character. So that's an actor called Mark Gatiss. Just a quick note on that actor. He's a fantastic actor. I've always enjoyed his work. From The League of Gentlemen through to the Game of Thrones, he's always really good. But when I saw him dressed up as Prince Regent, all I could see was another character of his from The League of Gentlemen, and that's Lance from the Joke Shop. And I kept waiting for him to say, "Put your hand in it." So if you haven't seen League of Gentlemen, that reference will be completely pointless. If you have, did you get the same feeling? Just the look of that character was very reminiscent of the Joke Shop character. I found it quite amusing. But it didn't change how he portrayed the character. He did it very well. But I just found that visually it was quite similar. But yeah, great episode all in all. Very slow, but I did enjoy it. Great acting, very authentic looking and intriguing backgrounds and scenes that they were in, always very cool. And this interesting story that's going on, multiple components to it, and I really want to know what's happening and what has happened. So I admit it's not got as much action as I normally prefer in a show, but at the moment I'm okay with that because we're just still learning, I guess, the basics around the characters. And something has to go down, a lot of action has to go down in the future, but I don't want them to rush it. That one little fight scene was probably enough for this episode, but I do kind of want to see pick up the pace in that regards going forward. As I think there could be some cool scenes, the war around the channel, so that should be pretty cool. And also I think James's history will be pretty violent and dark as well, so that'll be pretty cool to see what actually went on with that and just learn more about that whole situation. So I'll leave this here. I hope you enjoyed this review. How did you find the show? Please leave a comment, thumbs up if you liked it, obviously subscribe for more content from myself in the future. And until next time, this is Mesh, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.